Hello everyone, and today we have Pallav with us. And finally, I have been waiting for this conversation for very long. And Pallav is here to share his PMP journey, and we will learn from his experience, like how you can prepare for PMP better. But before we go and talk about PMP, we always need to understand who is the person, because then we can relate with the journey and the preparation better. Yeah. So, Pallav, why don't you give your brief introduction and then we start talking about PMP? And first of all, congratulations for doing
Thanks.
PMP.
Yeah, sure. So, myself, Pallav Johari, I've been working as a software engineer in the Bay Area in California for almost 6 years. Before this, I was working in India, in Mumbai, as a software engineer as well. And my PMP journey started last year when we had a different pattern for the PMP exam. And this was my third attempt, and I was a bit nervous because basically the first two attempts didn't work out, and also this was my first attempt based on the new pattern, so that made me more scared about like how the question would be, how the test would be. But yeah, luckily I was able to complete my exam with good marks and was able to pass the PMP.
That's interesting, and especially I think one of the unique thing about you is that you have seen the previous version of
Yeah.
PMP and the new version of PMP as well.
Sure.
And when we prepare less and rush for exam, we don't get the desired result. But when we take a time and prepare while, we probably make a better thing. But I think your sharing and your advices, I think we already have some old videos with you where we were discussing how to overcome some of the PMP preparational challenges. So what you felt when you see the previous pattern and the new pattern? I have been hearing from people the new pattern is relatively easy, more people oriented, more practical than theoretical. What is your opinion? That is something I have been hearing, but yeah, what is your opinion about the new pattern?
So based on the experience that I had with the PMP exam was it is more about like something that you can relate. So those are the scenarios that you would encounter in your daily life when you become a PM, and it's not something that you need to learn and then the question was okay, answer this question. So it was more about situational based and more something that if you have certain mindset like how an ideal PM should be behaving, how a certain process should act, so you can answer those questions much easily. But I think the previous attempt it was based on the pattern before this January 2021. It was more about like you need to have the knowledge of exactly like all the 49 processes, 10 knowledge areas, the correct sequence, because a lot of those questions are basically based on your understanding of that particular flow. But the current is more about like though it uses all those concepts, but it was more about like how you'll be basically implying those concepts in your daily life as a PM. So if you try to like have a thorough thinking about how to answer particular question based on an experience or how ideal PM should be answering those questions, then you can get your answers correct. That was my understanding of the questions.
Perfect. So what I'm getting here is that the previous PMP exam was more, in your opinion, was more process oriented. Processes still make sense, but the detailing and the nitty gritty of processes are not tested the way it used to get tested before, where it might be more focused on you have done this, what will you do next, and you need to exactly remember out of 49 processes what is the output of that process, which probably will tell you what should you do next. If you miss that particular flow, you may not be able to pick up the right answer what you should be doing next in the previous way of looking at exam. In the current way of looking exam, yeah, process is important, but not necessarily the exact sequence of that process. You don't have to exactly remember that okay, after this process the output goes to that particular process, and that is something helps you in finding the answer. Or it is more about a mindset. It's more about how, as a project manager in a situation like this, I need to deal with. And if one has a good mindset about leadership and working with people, facilitating the problem solving and understanding the problem, they may do good in the current exam. Over the previous exam might be more focusing on kind of mind mapping the 49
Exactly. Yeah.
processes. So I usually nowadays start saying that don't focus on mind mapping the processes, but rather focus more on mind setting the project management. So when you have a project management and new leadership style mindset, the people management mindset, you will be doing good. So what is your opinion now?
Yeah, so based on like whatever you said, so that is true. Like it's not about like mind mapping the complete process. It's more about like how you solve those scenarios in your day-to-day life. And also like one of the things that what I observed is that a lot of times, like based on previous pattern, if you see four options, you might just go for the first option because the first two words look clear. That one should be the best answer. But if you actually the complete option, like complete sentence, it actually is not the right answer. So like I always advise people to just read the complete, because earlier it was like when you see four options, you can think, okay, these two don't make any sense, but there might be a confusion between the remaining two. But this time I saw that each of the four makes sense until you read the complete sentence. Like, for example, certain output, which might be the correct answer for that question, but that output they mentioned was part of another process. Now you know that that output word is correct, the output is correct because as per the question, but it is not part of that process. So a lot of people in
Hmm.
a hurry to answer the questions, they might just tick mark that, but you go through that complete, and there's another option which might lead think a little bit skeptical, but it's actually the right answer. So that kind of questions and thing I have observed in this pattern, in this
Perfect.
pattern.
So what I'm picking from your explanation is that usually people used to pick up the keyword and make a quick decisions based on the keywords. And when I see a particular compatible keyword in the option, I know this is something is a negative choice and this is something is a positive choice. And the advice you are giving is that keyword might be good idea, especially when you are running into a short of time, but could be risky also, because many time the test taker might purposefully put a keyword right but may put the sentence wrong. So if you just like in a hurry, if you end up just looking at the keyword and you memorize, yeah, that process had this word, you may end up choosing it an option, but you the whole sentence might be contradicting the essence of that keyword, might be adding something here and there,
Mhm.
primarily to tick you that you should get trapped in a keyword. And so be careful, don't get trapped in the keywords. Maybe you need to read the whole sentence, you need to read all the options, because there could be a trap by the test creator.
Sure,
Yeah,
definitely, yes.
good. That's very very interesting.
Yeah.
So anything, any specific lesson you learn, maybe about focusing on the exam, or something like this, while doing this PMP exam? Because many time people keep delaying the doing PMP, and sometimes they end up doing over preparation, sometimes they end up doing under preparation, and I think you have seen various flavor of it. What is your lesson learned from this whole PMP preparation process?
So first thing I would like to say is that time management is very important. Like in the time of preparation and during the exam. In the time of preparation, I would say that like what I had earlier mindset that okay, I will dedicate a certain number of hours in a day for studying, but usually some things or the other kept on coming, and that my number of hours is reduced maybe to 15 minutes or 10 minutes a day. So I would advise like whenever you get time, okay, whatever like you are doing, if you get 5 minutes time, if you get 10 minutes time, just try to read something related to PMP. So like for example, like you have a YouTube channel and recently you made a lot of questions like what you think is the best answer of the four questions. So I used to play randomly, like I'm driving somewhere or I'm sitting or watching something. So the main idea is that throughout the day you should be completely in touch with the what you say the PMP exam. It shouldn't be that okay, once you're done with your all work for the day, then you start, because then you will take it as a kind of burden or extra stress, okay, that I have to study this much. But if you are kept on doing something like for 5 minutes or 10 minutes throughout the day, then at the end of the day, when you actually start preparing for those like 2 3 hours, so it won't be that you haven't prepared anything throughout the day. You were kind of reading something or solving something, so there was something that you accomplished rather than having nothing accomplished for that complete day. Other thing is so based on the new pattern we have like 180 questions and the time is like 270 minutes. So I would say like while giving the mock we should target for 200 questions. The reason why I'm saying is this, because if you target for more number of questions, then maybe it would be easier for you to deal with 180 questions. This is because your time management will improve, and also I would say that you get enough time to go through all the questions, because you have already taken a 20 questions buffer while solving the questions. That is one thing. And secondly, I would say try to solve as many as questions as possible. The reason is it's not only give you the idea like what kind of questions can come in the actual exam, but it also improves your ability to solve the question. So for example, if you earlier used to take 1 minute to solve a question because you need to go through all the 4 lines of the paragraph and then choose, so now it will be much easier, maybe I would say 45 seconds and initially 30 seconds. So you develop that art of how to read questions quickly, how to pick the thing what the examiner is actually trying to ask, and which of the 4 options make the best sense to that question. So eventually, like you might be able to complete more questions in less time, and that will also reduce your stress during the exam. Because I think the main stress is that what I felt is that initially when you start the exam, you have enough time, but if you keep on solving more questions, then some questions might take more time, and eventually you might have less time available for the other questions. So it's better to develop that pace, so that in the last 60 minutes, like you should have like less number of questions, that keeps you calm and you have enough time to think. And I would also advise like people to use the review option. So in the first 2 attempts, I didn't use it because I thought that would take more time. But actually, it's a good thing, because if you think any of the questions that is taking more time, you can just mark it as review and answer based on what you think at that point in time makes most sense. But in the end, you can, like, if you have like, for in my case, I have some buffer time left. So that gave me an option, or I would say kind of luxury, to basically decide which of those like out of 5 6 questions was correct, and give more time
Mm-hmm.
to picking the best option for those questions. So time management, I would say one thing. Secondly, like practicing more number of questions and more questions from different authors. So
Mm-hmm.
like we discussed earlier that basically when you solve mocks from a single author, so you get develop that mindset, and eventually you get a false impression that I'm scoring good, but it is actually your mind is kind of memory trained to answer those kind of questions. But the immediately
Mm-hmm.
you start solving from another author, you say, oh my god, what happened to me, why I'm scoring so less. So
Mm-hmm.
it can be reverse also. The other author might be asking very easy questions also, but it's always to be in the worst side and think that you need to prepare more, rather than being in overconfident that okay, I'm already scoring 85% now. That exam is nothing like big for me. So that is another thing we need to take care of.
Good, thank you. So, three things which I'm picking up: time management during preparation and during the exam. Two spaces of time management, and the tip you are sharing during preparation is that, yeah, allocate some time, try to meet that particular time commitment, but be ready that sometime you may not meet them. There are challenges which will keep coming in your day-to-day life. And the tip you are sharing is, when you can't meet the whole time commitment, just don't make it zero. Try to do something out of the whatever time available you have, so at least your mind and your focus remain focused towards giving this particular exam, and you have some touch, rather than you just get disconnected and then maybe lose motivation for getting back to it. So that's a preparational time you spoke about. And then you also spoke about the time management during the exam. So time it, practice it well. Maybe you time it in less than the number of time hours available to you in the real exam, or you may try to do more question in the given time, but you will do little more than what is expected from the real exam. And you also shared your experience of handling multiple sources based practice exam questions, and you stressed upon the idea that, ultimately these practice tests are made by some individuals. Even if PMI is giving kind of a set nowadays for 280p, but I think each training provider has their own flavor to it. They end up modifying part of it as per their philosophy of teaching project management. And it's something not necessarily be always exactly same when you look at a PMP exam. So when you look at multiple people's strategy, you may develop ability to handle multiple sources, because the PMP exam is written by multiple people. So yeah, usually the PMI conducts, they call it certification workshop or a question writing workshops, where they invite some practitioner, put them in a room, and then inside that room they generate X amount of questions in a given amount of time, and then those question goes through a review cycle 1, review cycle 2, and the practice a validation process in the real exam. But they are made by multiple people, they are not made by one person, they are made by group of individuals, and they have their own opinion of looking at things. So that's something is a good idea if you also pick up the thing from multiple sources. So that's
Yeah.
something I am picking up from here. Good. So any specific thing you observed related to agile? So do you have, are you a software, so you must be working in some sort of agile environment, but yeah, there are many people who are not yet working. So what is your experience related to agile type of or hybrid type of learning which you see while doing the PMP exam?
So Sakir, one thing I would like to say is that if you remember, like during our that session classes that we used to have, so someone suggested about this PMP ACP book, green color book. I don't know exactly the name of that book. So the first 5 chapters of that book are agile oriented, and though I was not able to get the hard copy, but I was able to get the soft copy. And I would advise anyone who has mostly given the exam in the first attempt in the previous year would try to read that particular book, not in depth, because that is basically for the ACP exam, people who are trying to give the ACP exam, PMP ACP. But that gives you a gist of all the agile ceremonies, though most of the things are covered in the agile. But sometimes what I've seen while solving multiple mock questions, that certain authors don't know a line between the PMP and the ACP. They ask certain details which I was unsure, okay, what this means. When I read it, when I searched it online, okay, this is that part of agile ceremony, which is not like not in depth, but so you never know that the final exam might be going to that depth of agile, or it might be only from the topmost superficial layer of the agile. So that is one thing. And I would say, like, all the processes a person should go, how they behave in hybrid, agile, and predictive. Because a lot of questions what I saw in the starting, they mentioned that the project is following that XYZ cycle and how this will happen. So until if you have a clear understanding how that particular process behaves in a particular development approach or cycle, you won't be able to solve that particular those kind of questions. And once you have the clear understanding, then because a lot of times we get confused, okay, this is how it used to be in agile, this is how it used to be in predictive, but how should be in hybrid? So that is kind of thing that only comes like when you have good understanding of agile. I won't say that you go in details, but at least have a basic understanding of agile, especially for the people who have prepared last year and not this year for the PMP.
Okay, so what I'm getting here is that one should prepare some formal study of agile. They can pick up some of the PMI ACP reference book, or some way they need to prepare a formal preparation of agile. That's one recommendation you are giving.
Mhm.
And the another interesting recommendation which I see here is that when you look at, say, PMBOK 6 processes, just for a
Mhm.
sake of example, and you look at various processes coming into action, the project management processes coming into action, or you may follow the exam prep guide. You in the PMI's exam prep guide, you have various topics: team development, you have a various topics: scoping, budgeting, procurement, risk. All these topics are coming as and when. So one need to think about how this thing will be done differently in when you are focusing on agile way of working or hybrid way of working. And I think that is going to be a little unique learning for PMP alone. That is not something covered in any agile book. That is not something covered in a very well defined format in PMBOK also. Not that level explained. Yes, at some extent the PMBOK covers that. Yeah, PMBOK 6 gives you the idea of each process and how the agile will come into action for those processes. At some extent they gave it, but yeah, it's not given in a very detailed format. But yes, as a test taker, better you invest your time there, and you may take assistance from your education provider and all if there is any confusion. Yeah, because there could be some thin lines, because see, the agile basically does not recognize project and project management. So we are adding project management and agile together, and we may not have a very authentic standard which tells both of them together. Yeah, so we have a PMBOK standard which tells project management well, we have Scrum guides and other agile knowledges, agile books which talks about agile well, but there is a lack of body of knowledge which combines together these two things, and that is something the PMP exam is expected to do. So one has to prepare and relate to these two things well. Yeah. Good. And any specific advice about the people part of it? Seems to be the people, conflict management and team development and training and virtual teams and personalities are becoming a little bit
Yeah.
important, I heard. Yeah.
I would like to stress on one more thing about related to the same people management thing. So I saw a lot of this drag and drop questions. So that is, I think, part of the new PMP 2021, I would say, study part, that we are going to match the following, like dragging from the left side on the right side. So I would say the conflict management and the, I would say, Tuckman's ladder, there should be very good understanding, because you might get questions where you might need to match based on the scenarios, and some of the scenarios you might be confused whether it's actually like on the performing stage or the other state, or whether it's like it's kind of smoothing, or whether they're trying to problem solving stage of the conflict management. So, and that is the thing that took me time to solve, because I was kind of a bit of confused. And also, like, I would say the risk management basically, like, what are the active, passive, and all those. So the options are pretty much like confusing. It's not like a straightforward thing that you think, okay, this is the right answer, match done. No, not like that. You have to think that because those take time, and those are easy scoring thing. If you have like a good understanding, you can score good. But one wrong thing, one wrong option, and because we don't have step marking here, we have like either your complete answer is correct or it's completely wrong. That is one thing. So yeah, and Turkmen's ladder, conflict management, and risk management, I would say that
Perfect.
they
Yeah.
should learn. Yeah.
So the two things which I'm picking up from here is that you may have the definition matching or the scenario matching questions. So the good part of this definition matching, sometimes is also called drag and drop questions, is that there are multiple concepts, and they are not very kind of tricky. They are not situational thing. They are straightforward once you know them. Yeah, that's the good part of it, and there could be a good scoring thing. So say when you are preparing for PMP exam, understanding the glossaries, understanding the terms related to various knowledge areas, you understand the vocabulary of PM, that will help you to get these drag drop things move faster. That's the one thing. And the specific topic which is primarily focusing on people space, conflict management, and Tuckman ladder. Tuckman ladder is a favorite PMP topic, I think, since I am seeing it 2006 and before. Yeah, so there was a PMBOK version 2000, then there was a PMBOK version 3. First time PMBOK version 3 came in. Before that, there was no 1, 2. So there was a PMBOK 2000. And PMBOK 2000 also had a Tuckman ladder. 3 also had it, 4 also had it, 5 also had it. And 7 also has that model somewhere when they talks about models and other stuff. So more or less, it's something important, and one has to prepare. And the risk management topics may also give you a clue. They may mix the risk management and people management together. So one has to look at all the knowledge areas of project management.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, good. Anything else you want to share which probably can help people to do the PMP exam?
Yeah, Saket. So other thing I would like to say is, by solving the mocks, try to like if you get a particular score, first don't be demotivated that your score is low in the mocks, because that's not the actual exam. And secondly, review of mock is more important than giving the mocks. So
Mhm.
for example, like if I spend 4 hours in solving 200 questions, I would spend at least 5 to 6 hours more in reviewing them, because a lot of times you might get answer correct because you might just got lucky. Okay, the concept that you applied was not correct, but your option somehow got correct. So basically you need to understand why your particular question was correct. And therefore, like whenever you try to review the mock, so try to see why particular option was wrong and why particular option was correct. That is one of the reasons I used to post a lot of question on forum Eisenbridge, and I think Manish might be knowing it because I've asked a number of questions during the problem solving and on the forum. So that was kind of, I don't know what he might think about me, but I want to have a clear understanding. Like if this option is wrong, why it is wrong, because that will only help me to solve the question in the actual exam day. And other good part of this exercise is that it develops a small kind of notes. So basically now the question that you got wrong, you got understanding, okay, why it was wrong and what is the correct answer. So next time, maybe in the subsequent mocks or from the or mocks from different author from the actual exam, you know that this is how this particular kind of question needs to be answered. Okay, so a lot of times I've like heard that people just see the mock result. Okay, I'll give one more mock and it will improve, but they don't spend enough time in reviewing that mock, because reviewing mock is equally, I would say, more important, because that actually gets like why a particular answer was wrong and why it was correct, and whether you just got lucky in answering that question, and whether your thought process in answering a question was correct or wrong. So that was like one thing, and try to solve as many questions, because in the last time what I actually felt is that I just whenever I was watching your videos for the Eisenbridge, I used to just make a one-liner note like what that particular video says about. So like there are n number of videos, and it's not possible to review all the videos on the few days before the exam, but if you make small notes of what each video actually meant, for example, Tuckman Landers, what are the stages, what happens in stage, that's it. So in that time, like while solving questions, while reviewing the questions, you can just spend one day in doing a kind of quick revision. Though you might
Mhm.
know what is there in that particular study material, but there might be some confusion, and you might be too busy in solving more questions rather than focusing on having a one more read of those concepts. So try to override those concepts so that you make them more sharp, so that while solving the questions, things are more crystal clear in the actual exam.
Perfect. So what I'm getting here is that a specific advice related to how to make maximum use of mock. And the advice which you are mentioning here is that just don't give the mocks. Yeah. Also analyze their right and wrong options. And if you don't have a convincing right and wrong choices, then discuss it with your education provider. In our case, we have a dedicated forum doing that. But yeah, whatever you have a mechanism, you put that question there and understand why this particular question is right, why this particular option is right, and why this option is wrong. Sometimes you end up making notes related to it, and if you do this analysis for a one mock, then it should enhance your capacity or to answer in the second mock, because you understand what type of trap you got caught in the previous mock, and you can avoid those traps when you are taking the next mock. Yeah, that's something you are mentioning. So just don't focus on scoring a X percentage out of mock. Try to always analyze the right and wrong option, and you are suggesting do it for all the questions. Even if you have marked the answer right, you need to have a right reason to mark the answer right, because even if you mark the answer right with the wrong reason, you might do the mistake in the second question somewhere else because your reasoning was wrong, though somehow you mark the right option. Yeah, so that could be a one trap one has to be careful about. So that's something you are focusing on. And the another thing you are focusing on is maybe one can have their own style, but have some mechanism to have complete understanding of what you are preparing. So the thing which work for you is making small notes of each topics and periodically reviewing them, so that you have a little grip on what is this whole project management is all about. So that's a one technique you are sharing here.
Yes, I could just like to add one more thing. So while solving the mock, always try to get the mocks from a verified source. So for example, Eisenbridge or whatever you are planning to get it, because what I've seen, a lot of mocks are kind of random questions which are available on internet, and the right answers of that questions might not be actually right answers. So a lot of
Mhm.
times, like when I posted those questions on forum, Eisenbridge forum, so Manish told me that is the wrong answer, because according to me the answer was something else, and what I saw on the internet was something different answer. So I was in the kind of confusion that is my understanding correct, why this answer was correct. But when I asked Manish, I got it clarified. Okay, whatever I thought was correct, but that particular source of question was wrong. So it's always better. So after that, I stopped searching random questions PMP on Google, because you never know what those questions from where they got the questions, whether they were correct or not, whether the options were correct or not. And instead of spending more time in finding out what is the right answer, it's always better to get it from verified source. And if you have any confusion, post it on some verified forums so that you get your understanding that whatever your concepts are, that is actually correct, and it is not that you just mugged up the answer of the particular question from the internet and then you try to solve it.
Perfect. So that's an important thing. See, the whole idea here is that there are a lot of providers, or I think organizations, just in order to get some attention, they put questions on the public. Now, sometimes these questions are not yet refined well. They might not be having the latest understanding of project management, because there is a PMBOK version 2003, 4, and there have been books like Rita's books is there for a while. So somebody may pick up old version of Rita books and put those questions on the internet and says these are the right questions, yeah, to look at. But the whole thing has changed in the past multiple years, and especially with the new PMP exam, the way of looking at question is pretty much different than what was there before January. So if you pick up some source which is relying on something which is of a older knowledge of project management, you may end up wasting your time. So you may say, oh, what is this? And there is a risk also sometimes, if you do too much of that type, you may even divert your attention and may start thinking in a different way, which might not be productive for your PMP exam. So try to bring some authentic sources, yeah, where they are pretty, there is a kind of a body behind it, and have a mechanism to discuss them. So whichever source you pick up, there could be issues. It's written by a particular writer, not necessarily the writer's thinking is the perfect thinking, and you should have a mechanism to raise that point. So whatever source you are using to, you should have a mechanism to ask for clarification. Okay, is it the right answer? Why it is the right answer? And by doing it, you can ensure that you are going in the right direction.
Yeah, even Saket, if I search a particular question on the Google, you might find 5 different websites, and all 5 have different options as the correct answer. So I experienced through such kind of scenarios, and I was like, if I rely on these questions, this is going to mess up my preparation, and also like spending time to decide which of them is correct. So that is one when I was trying to get the mocks, but obviously the Eisenbridge was getting the latest mock with the Agile and the new concepts, and also the I would suggest like paying something paid mocks, or paying something extra for the paid mocks, based on like because there you can kind of have assurance that okay, this is coming from a verified source. And even if a lot of times I've actually asked the author that because I don't think this is the right answer, and the author was good enough to answer, okay, this is because of this particular concept, and this could have been this, but this is because this scenario is according to that particular process. I said okay. So that is very important, like just going picking up random questions and solving and thinking okay, on good hands, it's not a good idea, but getting from a verified source, solving as many questions will lead you on better marks. Yeah.
Perfect. I think that's an important advice. And yes, yeah. So yeah, just don't try to rush for all the possible freely available programs. You may need to do little bit of due diligence and try to find out things. Good. I think I am good with you sharing, and I also spoke to your batchmates. They are also excited about you finishing. I think some of your batchmates will finally dare to give the exam again.
I
And
talked to
also,
one of them actually recently in the group,
uh-huh.
and he might give pretty soon. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think two people from your group is already done, and now one may do it soon, something like this. Yeah. So okay, good. The progress is happening. Good, nice. Yeah. Pallav, anything else before we close?
Yeah, one last advice: don't try to pick anything new during your preparation, like
Uh-huh.
any kind of new thing, because what I felt that anything you pick up, it distracts your mind, and you end up trying to kind of extend your exam date. And one other thing what I experienced is that during the COVID times, the rescheduled fees was waived off, but they all of a sudden put it back again. And I was in the impression, okay, I'll extend it one more time. But when I called them, they told me, okay, it is back. Then I have to think twice, okay, if I'm ready to spend that much money for the rescheduling fees or not. And I said, if I give that kind of attitude, a kind of lame attitude of extending, then it will keep on extending. And also my eligibility date was coming pretty close. So I said, okay, let's stick to a particular date, keep all the things aside for some time, like all the new things, places you want to visit, things you want to try, whatever your experience you wanted to have for some time, and let it make it a kind of worth preparation, and then you can have you know enjoy all those things after your exam.
Yeah, perfect. Good, thank you. So I like don't keep postponing your test. Yeah, have a date in mind. Now the rescheduling fees is also back. Yeah, I think if you do it in less than 60 days, you need to pay some money. If you do 60 days in advance, I think then it's free, I guess. Yeah, but again, it's something you need to do. Yeah, and better not to keep rescheduling. Having a milestone is always a good idea in project management
I
because
mean,
it
the
channelize your
small
energy.
bad side of this is it develops a small bit of stress that your exam date is
Mhm.
approaching, but that stress is necessary. Because
I
if
know.
the stress is not available, you will have very light, kind of attitude towards your exam, which is not good. You should be,
Mhm.
kind of stressed out because of exam, not in a bad way, but in a good way. Not
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you're
yeah,
completely stressed out, but in a good way, so that you can perform well in the exam.
yeah. So some amount of stress is good for your PMP exam, and
Yes.
ultimately take the PMP exam as a project because this is also a small project. You do your risk management, you do your scheduling, you have your milestones, you have your activities, and it's a temporary endeavor you are doing, which will produce
Yeah.
a result. You
All the
don't keep
definition of a
doing.
project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this all it has all the characteristics of it. Yeah. The only difference is maybe the team member is you alone, and maybe one or two maybe people or your instructor or organization are supporting you. So you don't have to do a scheduling related to other people, but it is more about you. But yeah, other stuff like risk management and all plays a role, and you need to achieve your milestones as you do in your projects. Good. Thank you, Pallav, for taking time out and sharing your insights. I'm sure our participants will find it useful and they will take some learning in account and do their PMP exam soon.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye,
Akhil.
Pallav.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Bye.